Hello, friends. How are you today? Well, I thought I would record outside by this big open area to my right. And it's an area that's for drainage. It's a naturally made area. You know, when there's a full moon, the water in it rises. When there's excess rain, the water in it rises. It's a natural land formation, but it's like a just in case, by nature, right? It's like a function or a feature that helps the land deal with excess water. And in a way, it contains flooding, and it makes a great home for the birds. They were chirping and chirping until I started recording. Maybe they're listening to my song now. I was listening to them for a while. Well, you know what I wanted to talk about? I wanted to talk about the natural ebb and flow of emotion, of mentality, and of this sort of special nature of the energies right now. I love looking at the wave patterns in water. And it's when you start engaging with nature, she teaches you, and I was always learning about energy from the wave patterns and then from the animals on the water. Something would come up and they would show me something, and they would teach me even energy techniques, ones that I teach to my audience that I learned from the animals. Did you hear that? Thanks, birds. Actually, the ones I was thinking of were from birds. So I am in a natural ebb and flow of emotions, because I was going to make it personal for a sec, and then we'll take it to the energies. So it's been a full week since my dad passed. And wow, I'm just like, I really got to be quiet. And the last week, I've really posted content for my memberships on Substack and YouTube, but I haven't done as much publicly. And, there's a sacredness to quiet. And sometimes that's where the sharing has to be. It has to be in a more sacred place. And that's part of the natural ebb and flow of energies. When we are, for me, it's just, I know it's grief, but I'll just start crying randomly. Like right now, I'm so much more emotional than I should be. But I feel so much gratitude, towards being here in nature. It's almost like the trees want to hug me. They're like, I'll show you. This one is a beautiful oak. Here, I'll show you. But it's like the oak is reaching out to me. It wants to, touch. It knows it's part of what I'm doing. And it's just, the leaves they're just shimmering. They're just vibrating like this. It's so cool. Yeah, so that's what's going on for me, and why I've been more quiet. But what I wanted to say is we're in an in-between time. And it's part of what makes communications with nature, like what I'm doing right now with you, so much more available, especially when you don't do it that often. Like what I'm doing now and what I asked to do before I started recording is I'm bringing my awareness. I've asked to bring my awareness, from the connection with my heart and soul. Now the wind is playing with me. See that? There's the awareness just like breezing over me. Okay, so I asked to bring my consciousness to the frequency of awareness where I would commune with nature and where I'd be able to perceive the messages that it has for me. As a little bird just flew in front of me. Do you hear the children in the background? Isn't it wonderful? All right, anyway, obviously it's still sunrise here. That's why the sun is at my back. And plus I thought that made kind of a cool background. So here's where we're at, okay? The imagery on the Schumann Resonance has changed. We had all this bridge imagery, and it has shifted to what I call a frequency prism. And so I see the energies of a frequency prism. And then I see the energy of calipers, which we've also, had on the Schumann before. But when two rods of energy from usually 0 to 40 hertz, they come in and it's like they catch something. So first we had the frequency prism. Not prism, but that's part of it, right? Because when light goes through, like the triangle prism, like on the Pink Floyd album cover, look it up, you can see the breakout of specific frequencies of color. So I'm having trouble keeping track of the topics here, but I know that what I'm doing is I'm doing it in 5D, which makes it very non-linear, but that is what the energies are right now, and so I'm going with that flow. So what's happening is that currents of energy are coming together right now. So the currents of the frequency prism, a part of that is this caliper imagery that's on the Schumann. And that's like an assessing. It usually ends up being like a rod of energy or two, and they come together kind of like a caliper that goes between the frequencies and assesses them. And sometimes it looks like frequencies get caught in the caliper. Like we're assessing, do we want this to be here? Do I want to be this way? If we take it to the personal, because I look at the Schumann, at the global and the personal. So basically what I'm saying is that we had the bridge imagery, and that's where we are right now. We've evolved it. And as we're in this bridge imagery, right? And the chasm before the bridge, how do we make the leap of faith to the other side? Well, that has now evolved. And I wrote about the evolving bridge imagery on my Substack, but it's become a well of access to the soul of your very nature. And what gives us the greatest access to that right now is this 2-week window of Mercury, where we can't really think that well, and we can't communicate as well. And our relations with our tribe or our brothers and sisters are a little more choppy. And so you feel like a man on an island or a woman on an island, and you feel more unto yourself. And in that, you can connect with the soul. You feel more physically alone and more energetically alone. That's the nature of the energies. But what this does, it allows the true you to come up and say hello. It allows nature to commune with you and say, hey, check this out. What about this? And so all of this opportunity to bubble to the surface is happening right now. And so I hope that you take advantage of this time and this energy. And at the same time that you're having an imagery shift on the Schumann, we're having this fascinating experience in the astrology. I did a lot about this on my private videos, and in the article that this is going to be attached to. So here's the thing. Mercury retrogrades still, well, it came out of retrograde and it's in a station. It's just moving around very slowly for the next 2 weeks. And so what that means is that about where it retrograded. And at the same time, we're in the last 2 weeks of the heliacal rise of Sirius. And so what happens is that we get this special galactic energy. It's like we have the special support from the cosmos, like from, take it to the personal, your spiritual guides, like my guardian angels are showing up big time right now. My higher soul source connected self, they're like so close right now. Okay. And so the messages of nature, the messages of my soul, like, the archangels, Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Uriel, Archangel Raphael, all mentioned in scripture, they have been so tangibly present, specific ones for me in the last week. And these are the energies that hold the universe, that are the essence of creation, that are the children of the Creator that assisted in creating this universe. Whatever anyone else appears to want to present them to be, that's what they are in physics. So here's the thing, in the physics of the interdimensional nature of the universe. So here's the thing. So we have 2 weeks of this special lifted state, right? Where it's harder to connect mentally. And therefore you have this special access at the same time that Sirius is completing the rise of its, at the horizon in the northern hemispheres. And this ends September 11th. And I had this amazing insight in the past couple weeks analyzing all this energy, that this is why September 11th, when the United States of America, when we were attacked, why it couldn't happen until September 11th, because every year that coincides with the finale, the finishing of this galactic energy, and yeah. It couldn't occur inside that window because the energy is too good. And those of us who are spiritual, those of us who believe in God, those of us who believe in, followers of Jesus Christ, the Christ energy, those of us who are, doing what we can, doing our best to embody that as living human beings, as living souls in human form. Those of us who are light workers, those of us who commune with nature, you know what I'm talking about, all you spiritual people out there. I don't mention the religions that I'm not, but, if you're spiritual and of a spiritual nature, I'm talking to you. And, So as we're in this lifted state, Pluto is going to retrograde tomorrow, Sunday. And then the next day is the new moon, September 2nd, Monday. And so it's a really interesting time because Pluto's move back into Capricorn is kind of intense. And it comes on the last day of the full moon. So this is kind of maximum harvest, maximum completion energy, yet at the almost dawning of the new moon. Again, two currents coming together, right? So the water is choppy. One current hasn't claimed dominion yet, right? The energies are coming together. And I think this is a great time for Pluto to retrograde, because whatever happens, as the first 2 weeks of the new moon roll out, September 2nd through mid-September, with this new moon energy flavored with Pluto, there's probably going to be some intensity here. And how do I know that? look back over the weeks from July 23rd to August 22nd. See how much trouble I'm having with numbers and sentences today. That's what I'm talking about in terms of, mentality, right? So look back over these weeks and then ask yourself, what happened for you? Because I've talked to many people where it was intense, and it was hella intense for some of us, okay? And now you're going to have the new moon flavored with Pluto again. We had this, week and a half break of that type of energy. But now we're going to have it again, but flavored in a new moon rather than a sun opposition the way it was before. I won't go into that because I wrote a lot about it and talked a lot about it. So the first 2 weeks might be potent, but because we're in this lifted state, it's like a huge blessing because we have the opportunity to respond from the source of our soul within. We have the opportunity to have God's intuition at our back. Your angels like on either side, right and left, soul in the center behind you, got your back, right? That's where we're at. That's what it's like. And it's so, actually, it's so uplifting because it gives me so much hope, because I know that whatever intensity might roll out in this new moon period, right? Because there's a lot of squares to major planets. But these squares also give us the energy to handle things we might not have wanted to handle before, look at, or deal with in our life. Not saying that that's the case for me. Of course it is. Of course it is. So there's also the energy of being and feeling like you're in a completely new state of being. The energy of a slate wiped clean. The energy of like standing before God and getting I think for some it will be a rectification, and for some it's going to be like a redemption. You know what I have felt like, especially, well, I still feel it now, but I felt it for several days now. Once we got out of that Sun-Pluto opposition on August 22nd, last week, Thursday and Friday, the 23rd and the 24th, when Sun was at 0 Virgo, it's like the slate got wiped clean. So for the past week, have you felt a difference in the energy? That's part of this two currents coming together that I'm talking about. It allows the potential for stillness in a way that we haven't had access to before, for potent messages, for true guidance, for really knowing what to do in a heartfelt way, that where maybe you had questions and now you can access the information. It will come to you, don't worry. Like, it will come to you. Just take that leap of faith, out one step and then the other, and in the moment, you'll know what to do next. I want to tell you a story of a man approaching me in the grocery store. And it was interesting because he was handicapped, but yet his energy was so strong and powerful. I felt like he could get up right out of that chair. But at any rate, we had this fascinating spiritual conversation. And then he asked me this question that was so inappropriate for the spiritual topics we were. It wasn't like like that. I know what you guys are. I just felt that. It wasn't like that. Okay, it was a different kind of inappropriateness. And it was so interesting. It really mirrored the two currents coming together, because it was this great spiritual conversation, and then this mundane inappropriateness. And when the mundane inappropriateness just came up, I just said no. Like I just changed on a dime, just like he did. And I just said no. And it was interesting because I didn't do it thinking. I didn't think through what's going on. It just came from the nature, the pure nature of who I am, sensing the shift in energies and saying, no, that doesn't work for me. I'm cool with where this conversation was before, but it was, it was two currents coming together. And, I wonder if we're going to be seeing this in people where their higher nature wants to step forward. And then their mundane 3D, 4D nature comes in and says, hey, some weird mind thing that they allowed to come through them, or some weird emotional expression that may or may not reflect the truth of who they are, right? It's very individual. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because it's important to check, to develop an ability to understand, is this thought mine or not? Did it come from the level of my soul or not? Is this emotion mine or not? Did it come from my true nature as a human experiencing life, as a living soul or not? And when these things aren't yours and you allow them to express, that is turning away from God. That is the energy of Lucifer. I'm just going to say it. Two energies, two currents coming together. For God, against God. Turning towards God, turning away from God. And, this is what I've been working on very, intently. And it's in all the charts of the people that I've been giving readings to lately. The asteroid Lucifer is very potent in the charts of everyone who's come to me. What does that mean? It's like that, how Jordan Peterson named his his talk, We Who Struggle with God, his current tour. And I thought, okay, I'll just be honest. At first I thought that's a stupid name. Right? Because God is so beautiful and loving when you actually connect with the love of the Creator for you. But now as I'm talking to you guys, I realize how much truth there is in that statement, because I face it myself. That asteroid in the astrology chart, I'll tell you what it represents. Where do you know what to do and you decide not to? Where do you get that inner impulse? Where's God giving you gifts and then you turned away and you said no? And you said, I've got to clean the kitchen first. And you said, I've got this intense project. I'm going to work 2 hours overtime and do it later, right? When you're super tired, right? I could go on, but I think you know what I mean. This influence is in everybody's chart, and it's part of the nature of being human, part of the nature of being a living human being and a living soul and form in a world of duality that, especially from the human matrix standpoint, appears to be ruled by the principalities of darkness, as it says in Ephesians 6:11. The shocking truth of that is up for anyone to see. But seeing it and perceiving it and then choosing to live it, choosing to turn towards God in your daily life now, man, that is really something. That is really something. So when I get the impulse now, like how I got the impulse to go out and look at the sun, and oh, by the way, bring your phone. And oh, by the way, remember how you thought about sitting at that table and recording a video? Oh, and by the way, maybe just turn it on and start talking. And guess what happened? I made this video with you guys. And that is from the pure essence and nature of my soul to you. You know, rather than my mind says I could put the dishes away before the day starts. My mind says I could finish the article I wanted before I go walking. My mind says maybe I should walk the dog, first. Right? You see what I'm saying? All of those would have been the influence of that asteroid in a specific part of my chart, which I'm not going to go into right now, but, And this asteroid is very present in the current potent astrology. At one point it's next to the moon, right? Which is, do we turn towards God or away from God in truly embodying our nature as humans? For example, that's what's up right now. So, wow, look at how all this tied together. It was really amazing, isn't it? But the last thing I want to say about this Pluto retrograde is that because we're in a lifted state of being right now, it's like God's grace for us. Okay, so it's like the mind can terrify us, especially with, Pluto bringing potentially some very heavy energy. And we're lifted out of our ability to really connect with that. And can you think of a greater blessing that God could give us at this time? Like, I just can't think of all the scary things because my mind isn't functioning. Like, I couldn't even tell you if I wanted to. No, I'm not going there. Because it's not mine. I just checked in the moment, right? The image and thought came up and I checked and I got not yours, and I knew it wasn't. Because do you know why I knew it wasn't mine? Because it had a fear quality, right? Because I was speaking about that. So an offer was made to me in the non-physical. And I said no. Why put that in the video? It's not mine, right? It's not the truth of my soul. Girl, guys, we got this. So that lifted state is like a state of grace with which we can be in these energies, face these energies, and, observe the themes. And actually, there is another thing I want to say about the Pluto energy as we move to it, because I'm recording this on Saturday and Pluto retrogrades tomorrow, Sunday. So as we've been moving to this in the last few days, I made a post on Twitter and then I deleted it on X and then I deleted it. And it was about how a particular event that happened reflected Pluto retrograde. And when I thought about it, I thought, no, that's Aquarius. That's Pluto and Aquarius. And what's happening right now is it's almost a little confusing because we're getting these Pluto and Aquarius themes, right? Which is, how do we want to think about the future? Like, what ideals do we want to live for the future and support? And then all that's happening on the great screen of human consciousness. But then there's also the taking apart and the coming down of the old system. That's the initiation of that, once again, is over the next few weeks. But the rollout of it is going to be, years. And but what that rollout is going to be about, you're starting to see now. You've seen a mea culpa, right, from one of the great big tech CEOs. And I thought, wow, that's really Pluto retrograde into Capricorn. And then I thought, no, that's Pluto in Aquarius. Because what he was expressing is a line of thinking about what that implied where the future might go. Then a certain presidential candidate is apparently coming out with a description of what might happen to tech CEOs who break the law. And I thought, okay, wait, that expression is Pluto retrograde into Capricorn, because it's the description of the coming down of the old system, right? What had been happening over years, and even in ways that we weren't aware of. So it's really like dicing these is tough, because I can't get my mind together, and probably a lot of us can't in this energy. But that's what's happening, right? The last part of this two currents coming together is these themes of Aquarius, and these themes of specifically Pluto and Aquarius, and these themes of Pluto and Capricorn keep coming up, and it's like they're all thrown up in the air, right? What are the moral foundations, the principles of life, the principles of living, and the principles of divinity behind those, upon which we want to base our lives? And then Pluto in Aquarius comes in. That's Saturn, which rules Aquarius, that is currently in Pisces, the spiritual sign. That's what all that means, without talking about the astrology more than that. So, but when Pluto comes into Aquarius, it just takes a laser focus to that topic. And then as it moves back into Capricorn, you know what's happening in Capricorn. In the early degrees of Capricorn, Ceres and Pholos are still, I think they're still exact square the nodes in a grand T-square. They're in a grand square too, I believe, with the moon. They were in a square with the moon at one of these events, because I've tracked so many charts right now, I don't remember which one. So what is that? Okay, Pluto comes back into Capricorn at 29 degrees. We have an opportunity to look at the negative characters in our life differently, especially if they were close to you, okay? If they were a father or a mother that expressed, some kind of dark energy towards you. If they were a sibling, a brother or a sister. If they were a spouse, or a relationship, a friend or a husband or a wife, right? And we have the opportunity to really look at this different from the perspective of the systems we live in, right? The structure of the family, the structure of marriage, the structure of relationship, the structure of, these things in our lives. And normally you wouldn't think of that in Capricorn, but with this mix with Aquarian energy, I think it's appropriate, especially interpreting at a personal level. And because Ceres, the mother, is in the square in the early degrees of Capricorn. I think she's at 7 right now, retrograde, with Pholos, the centaur, who was present at the massacre of his own people, and possibly, we could say, caused that massacre through his actions unknowingly, which means it was in alignment with divine will, and he and all of his people perished. The centaurs were completely removed from the earth. Well, so this energy has the mother, Ceres, an aspect of the divine mother, the great mother, the goddess, fractal of divinity, of the divine feminine, right? In this square with the nodes. Your past, the south node, our past, from the perspective of Capricorn and all the systems that we're in, and the future, the north node. How do we want to express? And we have a lot of energy for doing that. The north node in Aries, also where we get attacked, right? Where do we get attacked? At our energy levels. We're getting attacked at, I want to do this new thing. Oh, someone makes a law, wants to make a law, so you can't talk about it. Oh, I want to do this new thing. Oh, someone that threatens someone's power that had it for decades or centuries. Oh, I want to do this new thing. And someone doesn't like how things may change accordingly. So, the sun is shifting now. It's rising higher in the sky. So I'm not really even sure if you can see me on the video right now because of how it's all set up. So the mother comes in as a representation of, the feminine, divine feminine. Pluto comes in as a representation of the divine feminine and seeing into the heart of darkness. And Ceres is the aspect of the divine feminine that was unafraid to go to hell, to go to Hades and face the darkness and get her daughter and recover her inner child, right? You could also see the story of Ceres rescuing Persephone as we as living human beings going to the heart of our nature, and in this case relative to the system. Can't believe I'm saying this. I grew up as a child of later decades looking at the 60s going, what were those guys thinking, in some ways. And so, we can look at how our inner child has been affected, right, by these things and recover our traumas in this time and come out so much stronger, where it's almost like we face God, or God gives us the courage to face the big, ugly, scary, threatening, death-defying monsters. And guess who gets to win? We do. Can you face the fallen angel of your past and survive? Well, let me tell you something. I can, and I have. And if I can, friends, you can. Right? How did I do it? I did it by, to the best of my ability, following the words of Jesus, embodying my soul and my Christed essence, the living soul, to the best of my ability. And in any of these things, when you face them, your choice to be and retain the living soul that you are, your choice to align with the love of the Creator for you, with the love of God, is what not just saves you or rescues you, like the divine feminine Ceres rescuing her daughter, her inner child, from the depths of her own trauma or from the depths of hell, right? What happens is when you call on that divinity over and over, right? When you're faced with an attack by the darkness and you do this, what happens? Suddenly, God comes through, the divine comes through, the biggest angel you've ever seen comes through and defeats the darkness for you. What happens is, just like Scripture said, God fights your battles for you and wins. Victory belongs to divinity, to the Creator, always. But it's up to us to make the call. Do you hear the geese calling? They're taking off now in one of their V formations. It's up to us to make the call, to make it true, to make it real. You can't experience necessarily, I won't say can't because I never say never, but to experience what I'm talking about often just requires living it and living through it. And what I want to say to you is, you have the tools. We can do this. You've got this. And that's what Pholos next to Ceres is telling us. Our choices right now are critical. but you can make a different choice, and one that allows you to survive. And what happens when the centaurs are massacred? One centaur survives, Chiron. Why? Because he's immortal. What does that mean? He's fully connected with the soul that he is. He is in his Christed nature. That's why he survived. It's, in essence, it's akin to calling on God as a living human, as a living soul in human form. And here's what I want to tell you. We can survive this. You can survive this. You can survive whatever internal or external battle is going on. And the key is aligning with your divine nature and calling on God and calling on your own soul and saying, no, I will be this. Because as a living soul in human law, in human form, human law may say one thing or another. Human law corrupted, alienated, distorted, may say one thing or another. But what I know is the principles of the soul, the principles of divine law, which say that you are a living temple of divinity. Your human nature, the human that you are, to the best of your ability, is divinity in form. And you are the living soul animating the body. And therefore you have the choice and the opportunity. And it's in some ways on you, between you and God, to express that in this lifetime. Will you do it? If you choose that, divinity comes through and supports you at this time, in this moment. Isn't that awesome?